Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be doing a flip through and an early impressions video on the latest D&D book. This is Mythic Odysseys of Theros. This was sent to me by Wizards of the Coast for the purposes of doing a review, so I want to thank them for sending this out to me. This is also the second campaign setting book to come out that is based on the Magic the Gathering world. Or worlds, I guess I should say. So Theros has had a few sets revolve around it. Honestly, I really don't know much about the Theros set other than it is very much inspired by like Greek mythology. But it'll be interesting to go through and have a look through this. So this was sent to me earlier in the day. I've only had a chance to look through things at a very quick glance. But so without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right into it, shall we? So this is the standard cover. There is a variant cover that is being released as well for local game stores. And it does look interesting, but for me, this is the cover that I honestly prefer. So I was glad that this was the one that was sent to me. It says on the front here, it says Clash with the Gods of Theros in this campaign source book for the world's greatest role-playing game. It's got the Magic the Gathering logo up there as well. And on the back, it says Challenge the Gods. The world's most popular role-playing game meets the world's most popular trading card game in this campaign sourcebook, detailing the Magic the Gathering world of Theros for use in Dungeons & Dragons. Legends walk the lands of Theros, a realm shaped by deities and the deeds of heroes. From the temples of omen-speaking oracles to the 5 realms of the underworld, the champions of the gods vie for immortal favor and place among the world's living myths. Choose a supernatural gift that sets you on your path to destiny. Align yourself with one of Theros' 15 gods and carve a tale of odysseys and ordeals across the domains of mortals, gods, and the dead. The retail price on this is $49.95 US and $65.95 Canadian. So let's have a look here, and we'll go through. Like I said, this is brand new, just sent to me, so it's still, the cover's still very stiff. So this is the, see if we can get a better look at it here. So this is what the alternate cover looks like. So it is cool, like I do like it, but I don't know. I kind of prefer, I think this one for me does it a little bit more, but they're both fantastic covers, and I don't think you're gonna go wrong with either one. Then we also have our table of contents here. So we've got the Welcome to Theros, which is sort of your introductory stuff to sort of set the tone for how this campaign setting will unfold. Character creation, so we have heroic drive, supernatural gifts, and then the races are human, centaur, leonin, which are like these lion humanoids, minotaur, satyr, and triton. Subclass options is the Bard College of Eloquence and the Paladin Oath of Glory, and it also gives you the athlete background, so we'll take a look at those. The Gods of Theros, so it gives you all the information here, divine characteristics, divine relationships, myths and deeds, worship, clerics and champions, piety, and then it goes into the actual gods available, as well as then we have the realms of gods and mortals, creating Theros adventurers, I should say. So that'd be an interesting chapter to go through as well. Some magic items. And then you have Friends or Foes, which is basically your sort of bestiary or your monster manual, I guess you should say, for this campaign setting. And one of the things that I noticed right off the bat is I really love some of the design and like layout for this book. Like this opening title page or introduction page, I don't know, just really like it. You know, I like sort of that it looks like frescoes on the walls of, you know, these like Greek cathedrals, or not cathedrals, is probably the wrong term for, but like the temples and things like that. So again, I really like the design here, and the art direction I think is really nice. So here we have our character creation. So you can have things like, you know, amplifying your ideal. So to make that a bit more important, legendary bonds, tragic flaws. So this is very much like a character-driven sort of thing. You want to personalize it. And then you have supernatural gifts. So we have Anvil Rot, Heroic Destiny, Iconoclast, Inscrutable, Nyxborn, which I think is sort of like the Realm of Dreams, I think. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with the Theros sets from Magic. Then we have the Oracle. So again, these gifts are really interesting, and they'll be, I'll discuss them more when I do the actual review video. This is just like a flip through so you guys can sort of see what's in here. Then we have Pious and Unscarred. And then we have our races here. So it does include humans, because humans are a big part, obviously, of the Theros setting. They don't really give them any special abilities here or anything along those lines, but it does give you at least some names that you can choose from, which are great because I'm terrible at coming up with names. Here we have our centaurs. Just looking at their attributes, they get +2 to strength and +1 to wisdom. I believe they are considered medium size. But that's medium by like the stretching the definition to the extreme. Like it's not the same size as like an average human. They are bigger, obviously, because they have like the horse lower bodies. But I guess it's just to keep all the player character races medium size. But there we go. They get a charge attack. Their hooves are natural weapons that do a D4 plus their strength modifier. Equine build, they count as one size category larger for carrying capacity and weight. Survivor, they're proficient in one of the following skills, so animal handling, medicine, nature, or survival. So yeah, cool stuff there. The Leonin, I really actually like these quite a bit. One of the planeswalkers that I have like some of the pre-con decks for that I actually really liked was Ajani. And Ajani is one of these Leonin. And so they get +2 to con, +1 to strength. They get Dark Vision, Claws as natural weapon, Hunter's Instinct, so they're proficient in either your choice of athletics, intimidation, perception, or survival. And they get this Daunting Roar as a bonus action. They can do it if they have to save on a wisdom saving throw, or become frightened of the target when you use the ability. So again, kind of neat stuff there. Minotaurs, actually I'm really happy to see this. I don't know, I want to say that this isn't the first time Minotaurs appeared as a player character race. They may have been in Mordecai Tomes of Foes or Volo's Guide to Monsters, but Minotaurs I've always had a really sort of soft spot for, because back in the 2nd edition AD&D days when I first started getting into playing, one of my DMs had the deities, or not the deities, the humans and demi-humans book, so that you had all these different demi-human races, and Minotaur was one of them. So a couple of us would always play Minotaur characters at first, so I actually kind of like that. They get strength +2, con +1. They get their horn attack, goring rush, hammering horns, imposing presence. So it looks like all the races in this book give you a skill proficiency as well, which honestly, I really like that. I think that that's awesome. And I kind of want to see if there's a way to retcon even the races in the player's handbook to give them something similar. And then we have our satyr. It is hard for me to see like a satyr and not think of the really corny, cheesy Hercules cartoon with the satyr that would just keep calling him Herc. I think it was from like the 70s or 80s. It was part of my childhood, but it's hard to look at satyrs and not think of that immediately. I kind of almost want to make a barbarian, like a human barbarian character, and give him a satyr cohort that calls him something like that. And anyway, so their abilities, +2 to charisma, +1 to dex. They get magic resistance, so they have advantage on saving throws against spell and other magical effects, so that's pretty good. Revelers, they're proficient in the performance and persuasion skills, and proficient with one other skill of your choice. So these guys get some pretty powerful abilities. But I guess it makes sense for the world. They get ram attacks with their horns, mirthful leaps, cool stuff. And then we got our Triton, sort of aquatic creature. Strength, Constitution, and Charisma all go up by 1. So it's 3 attributes that go to +1 instead of 1 at +2 and 1 at +1. So that's kind of neat. Guardians of the Depths. Oh, these guys might not have a skill. They might not get a skill thing here. But that's fine. They have resistance to cold damage. They have a swim speed of 30. So anyway, pretty cool stuff. Subclass options. So here we have the Bard College of Eloquence. What's sort of interesting about this is, like I said, I haven't read the whole thing as of yet, but the one ability that I actually really like is that they get the Unfailing Inspiration at 6th level. So that one, essentially, if you use a Bardic Inspiration die that's granted to you, and you roll it and you still fail the check or saving throw or attack or whatever it is, then you don't actually spend the die. So you actually still get to retain it with this ability, which I think is kind of neat. And then it looks like they have, just like I said, it looks like their abilities sort of revolve around their ability to like inspire or use inspiration or other abilities. Like I said, I haven't read it too much yet. This is just the one that really sort of leaped out at me. And then we have the Oath of Glory for the Paladins, and they're sort of they're sort of about showing off their athletic ability. But yeah, it looks like a really interesting subclass. So it's just nice to see some options. Again, I will say, as sort of I guess a little bit of a nitpick, I would have loved to have seen something for each of the classes, each of the player's handbook classes, if nothing else. I think that that should always be the goal for these books, is to have something for everyone. So only having one for the Bard and the Paladin, it's a little bit limiting, but it is what it is. It's nice to have new options regardless. So I will say that, and I'm sure a future book coming out, maybe even this year, since they're doing a lot of playtest stuff, we'll probably have more archetypes and things like that. And here we have the athlete background. And then we get into the gods, and again, just really fantastic artwork here. And I'm not going to go into as much explanation here. We're sort of going to flip through things here. But I do say I really like, I should say, that I really like the just how involved the gods are in this setting. It really sort of counterbalances something like Eberron, where the deities, really their existence is really questionable. But here, they're just, very directly involved. And that's, if you look at Greek mythology, the one thing that you can say is that, the gods were very much involved in the affairs of mortals. So here we have the Theros specific gods. But what's interesting, and I think one would be relatively easy to do, if you don't necessarily want to run this as a Theros campaign, but you're interested in sort of like an ancient Greece or Greek mythology type of campaign, the player's handbook does have listings of the Greek gods, so that you could essentially just reskin these ones that are here, just looking at like the domains and alignments and sort of what their influences are. And it would be, I think, relatively easy to just, like I said, reskin them with the the historical Greek gods and the Greek pantheon, if that's what you wanted to do. But with the gods here, there's like these piety scores and some benefits that you can get for essentially how much favor you have with the gods. So they play a very direct part. So regardless of what class you play, this is a campaign setting where you really do want to choose one of the gods to worship, and because it's something that can be beneficial to you. And then here we have some of the different realms, including some maps. It hasn't been announced yet, but I feel like this is another product that would be perfect for like a maps and miscellany pack. So we'll see if they do anything with that. But again, just some really fantastic artwork here, and I'm really interested to read some of these regions and realms here. Realms of the Returned, the Siren Sea, Realms of the Gods. So Nyx is the endless plane of existence where powers of potentiality. It's way too late at night for me to try to read that word. And belief hold sway. in this realm of gods, of belief given form, of dreams, and the rising of fading philosophies. From here, the pantheon of Theros watches the mortal world and guides the living. Okay. I know, like, Journey into Nyx was one of the sets. Like I said, I don't think I've ever opened any packs from the Theros sets, but still pretty cool nonetheless. And then we get into creating Theros adventures, including how much you want to involve the gods, some omens that you can use based on them, divine ordeals. Actually, I think Journey into Nyx was one of the headers there. Let's just go back. Journey into Nyx. And I think back with the actual deities, and here we have some more of the Dyson logos maps, which I'm really starting. These are really starting to grow on me. I know I've criticized them back in the past, but I'm really starting to enjoy them. Especially now, these ones aren't the best examples, but they have been incorporating. They have been incorporating more colors into them with several of the maps, which is great. Another reason why I think a maps and miscellaneous section would be great. Yeah, so here we have the gods, so you can have them as, like, if you're a champion of the god, or if they're a villain, as well as sort of motivations, some creatures that you may encounter, how to run them if they're a campaign villain. And what's interesting is you can sort of go from the gods being like allies and slowly turning them into villains, which I think is, again, a really cool touch, and it'll be interesting to run campaigns along those lines. We got some more maps, some more information on the gods. So like I said, just a little splash of color, and I think it makes the maps just so much better, because now you see like the green foliage and you know that that's like plant life. There's ones where you see like these blue areas and you know that those are like lakes or streams or puddles. It just helps quite a bit, I think, with those, because the maps are nice. And I like the style behind them, but just adding, like I said, just a little bit of color where it's appropriate works really well. And again, just some really fantastic artwork throughout all here. So yeah, so here you have a stream going through. And it's always like just one other additional color, but that's fine because it's, you know, it's very minimalist, but it makes a big difference. So you can see how clear it is to know what you've got with these maps now. Again, just I'm glad that they went in that direction with them. That's sort of like a Colosseum, or not Colosseum, but a amphitheater sort of setting there. Again, that's obviously some magma or lava. And quite a bit of stuff to go off of here. Locations, magical islands, properties. And, you know, death doesn't necessarily need to be like a TPK in this type of campaign. Isn't the end of the world, because it just sends the characters to the underworld, and an adventure type that you can have is escaping from the underworld. So, yeah, I mean, there's quite a few things that I actually really like about the way that this setting is set up. So I'm glad. I'm really happy, you know, with what I've seen so far. We do also have the No Silent Secret, which is the introductory adventure for a group of first level characters, which should gain second by the end of the adventure. So these are, you know, it's obviously a shorter adventure, but it's just sort of meant to set the tone and be something that you can use as a quick introduction. I know with the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, shortly after that came out, they had a Ravnica weekend where one of the events was a D&D adventure, which was the same adventure that came with the hardcover that you could run in store. So this is something that I think would also fit into like a 2 to 4 hour game session, but still looks like a great way to introduce yourself to the world. And it's just nice to have that introductory adventure in there. Even if you don't use it, just reading the way that it's written can be very beneficial in terms of giving you an idea of what the theme and feel of the setting is. So here we have our treasures. So we have some remarkable items, some gifts from the gods. So Helm of the Gods, Molten Bronze Skin, Potion of Aqueous Form, And then we got some artifacts in here. So obviously you would need the Dungeon Master's Guide to set up some of the abilities of these artifacts, because it just gives you like so many beneficial ones or detrimental ones. And here we have our monster manual of friends and foes. Gives you some information on some classic monsters and how to fit them in. So dragons, for example, they're not like the intelligent, scheming type of creatures. They're more mindless and animalistic in this world. But it gives you like the blue dragons and red dragons, which I guess are the most prevalent, and just sort of how they basically how to run them. Lamias, Medusas, Night Hags, Sphinx all play a pivotal role as well. And then we get into our Bestiary section. And you get a pretty good mix of challenge rating or challenge levels in here as well. We have the Cerberus, the two-headed Cerberus, or the Underworld Cerberus, the three-headed one. The Chimera, so you have the Theron Chimera, which you can actually, customize and have different abilities, which is, again, really cool. I actually really like that, that ability there. The Colossus of Akros, which is a challenge 23, so this is something that you would use sort of as a campaign ender. And again, there's really cool stuff in here. Eater of Hope, Nightmare Shepherd, Eidolons, the Flitterstep and Ghostblade, Fleece Mane Lions, Doomwake Giant. Now, here we have the 100-handed one. I remember this, it was called the Hecacondrates, or something along those lines, in the 3rd edition Epic Level Handbook. And it was, essentially, it was a god-slaying monster. Now, here, that was like a challenge rating 50 back in those days. So here it is only a challenge rating of 15. Hit points really feel kind of weak, but it gets 4 attacks with its melee weapon, or it can throw 2 rocks. However, with its reactions, the giant adds +5 to its armor class against 1 attack that would hit it, and it has a special ability where it can take 1 reaction on every turn in combat. So essentially, any physical attack that's made against it, he can use that reaction. Now, if you're a fighter and you're getting multiple attacks, you can only use it once. But the fact that on every single player's turn, he can use that ability, it does offset things a little bit, although again, it's only got an armor class of 15, bring it up to 20 for a group of characters that should be taking on 15th level creatures. This is something that I would probably want to tweak and maybe, double the hit points, maybe up the armor class a little bit, make it a little bit more of a challenge, but it's still kind of cool to see it in there and see it in a much more manageable form than what we had, 20 years ago, when it was essentially, had like 100 attacks it could make. And we got some Hydras, including Pelukrinos, which I think is like a legendary, it's a legendary Hydra creature. Nyx Fleece Ram, Leonin Iconoclast, Nymphs, so different types of nymphs for different environments, Oracles, and then the Returned, which are sort of like, they're essentially undead. Lower level type creatures, but still, kind of cool. Some Satyrs, some Tritons. Then we have the Typhon, then we have the Woe Strider, so large aberration. And here we get into our mythic monsters. So there are 3 mythic encounters included in this book. And at first, I was really sort of disappointed in looking at them, but I actually kind of like the way that they do these. And again, I think it makes for an interesting encounter sort of design that you could use and maybe apply to other things to make them a little bit tougher. So here we have Rasta, which is sort of like this, obviously this giant gross spider creature that has other little spiders crawling all over her. She's a huge monstrosity. Armor class is only 19 for a challenge rating of 21. However, these creatures have, all these creatures have what's referred to as a mythic trait, which has some sort of trigger. So she only has 300 hit points, which seems disappointingly low. However, she has Armor of Spiders, so if she's ever reduced to 0 hit points, she doesn't die or fall unconscious. Instead, she regains 200 hit points. In addition, her children swarm over her body to protect her, granting her 100 temporary hit points, which means they get used first. So it effectively doubles her hit points. So it makes her a tougher creature, and so it's one of those situations where, you know, you think you finally slayed her, but then, you know, the basically like the second form kind of mentality kicks in, which is really cool. We got legendary resistance, web walker, multi-attack, and then we have legendary actions, and then we have mythic actions. So mythic actions are the same thing as legendary actions. However, you can only use them if your mythic trait has been triggered. So she would have to basically have taken 300 points of damage to begin with for Armor of Spiders to kick in. And but then once that happens, she can add these mythic actions to her legendary actions for a bit more variety. So again, that's actually really cool, and I like that idea. And you actually get a pretty decent amount of information on them as well. So again, really, really cool encounters. I kind of wish there were more included. But then, I mean, I'm fine with it here. But I do hope that this is something that continues in other products, that they sort of make this a new way of making some interesting creatures. So here we have Hythonia. So this is like a Medusa. You know, Petrifying Gaze. And her mythic, does she have? Yeah, she's got mythic. So Shed Skin, mythic trait, recharges after a short or long rest. If she reduced to 0 hit points, so she only has 199. She's also only challenge rating 17, so lower level creature to fight. But if reduced to 0 hit points, doesn't die or fall unconscious. Instead, she sheds her skin, regains 199 hit points, and moves up to her speed without provoking opportunity attacks. And then she can add these mythic actions on here as well, which is cool. And then we have Tomocratus. I know I said that wrong. You don't need to correct me. But again, this one I think is my favorite one. Challenge 26. So this is something that would be like the campaign ending creature to go up against. 409 hit points. And sort of like this gargantuan, like worm-like creature, I think, or kraken. Sorry, it's like a giant, this huge gargantuan kraken. But its mythic trait is called Hearts of the Kraken. So it, when it's reduced to 0 hit points, again, doesn't die or fall unconscious. The damage creates cracks in the kraken's carapace, revealing its hearts. It has 4 hearts total, 2 on its chest, 1 on its back, and 1 on the base of its tail. A heart has an armor class of 22 and 100 hit points, and is immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks, immune to all conditions, and if there's something you could do that would force it to make a saving throw, it does it at a +0 bonus. But what's interesting, the only way to kill it is essentially to slay all 4 of the hearts. So it basically makes like an 800 hit point creature, which I think is with a 22 armor class, which is not bad. It's still, I think the AC could still be a bit higher. But that's still, I think, a really, really awesome ability. And again, it just makes for this, epic encounter, and just, describing, like, as they land what might normally be the killing blow, only to sort of have like these like almost like sounds of thunder rippling through the skies, like the cracks in its shell sort of start to form, and you see these like pulsating hearts that seem to be like, the thing keeping it. Obviously it's a heart, it keeps it alive. So yeah, I just think this would be a lot of fun to go up against, and of course it also has a couple of mythic actions there. And that's it. Then we have our index. So there we go. That is my initial flip through of Mythic Odysseys of Theros, and honestly, just as a first impression, I'm really enjoying this. A few years ago, if someone said that, some of my favorite 5th edition books would be the ones based on Magic the Gathering settings, I wouldn't have believed you, but here we are in 2020, and that's sort of the way that I feel. I think that this is going to make for a great campaign setting. It has sort of, again, that more, sort of epic feel to it. The involvement of the gods. It's obviously not going to be a campaign setting that's going to, speak to everyone. But if you're someone that's interested in like the more, mythology-based types of campaigns or adventures, storylines, then this is going to be, I think, a great one to run with. And if you're someone that wanted to, have a D&D campaign set in ancient Greece, this is a really good template for that, and it gives you, again, some awesome encounters and creatures to go up against. And again, the gods that are in here for Theros, I think, could be, with just, a little bit of work. It's not going to be like completely and totally seamless, but I think with some effort, you're going to be able to just simply reskim them from the Theros gods into the Greek gods. So I think it works on that level as well if you just wanted to run something that was more historical. So that's my early impressions anyway. So in about a week's time, I will have read through the book more thoroughly, and I'll be able to do my full review at that point. But right now, just at a cursory glance, I'm really impressed, and I'm really happy with what I see in here. And I think this will be a fun campaign setting to work with. So I'm looking forward to diving a little deeper into it. So anyway, let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the Theros campaign setting? Are you someone that has it pre-ordered or going to be picking it up from your local game store? If so, which cover version are you going to get, the standard version or the variant? Let me know in the comments below. I always love to hear that. And if you play Magic the Gathering and you know more about Theros from the card sets, because I have no basis of familiarity there, I'd love to sort of hear how they seem to, if they've done a decent job capturing the feel from the card sets into the campaign setting. So it's interesting to see how well they handle that. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Take care.